Order.
Okay, so present we have Ray Hutchinson, Jeffrey Shade, Heather Addy Kreider, Tony Delamano, Jason Janisek, Brandon Jennings, Paulette Corey, Jim Miller, Gerard Pascal, and we have Deputy City Manager Mike James and Management Analyst Delilah Welnick.
Okay, time for the pledge. You all stand, hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and we have a special presentation from Delilah.
Thank you, Chair Hutchinson. Today, this first presentation is just an update on the land inventory as presented by CoStar. If you recall, during our last meeting, it was requested that staff return to our Business Commission with an update on available land. So that is what I will share with you today. Sorry, give me one moment. Perfect. Okay, great. So just a quick overview, what we will be going over today is how many parcels there are of open land within the city of Encinitas, and we'll be breaking that down by community. We'll also be sharing the number of parcels by zoning. CoStar has this feature where they will recommend potential categories. So I'll give you a summary of what CoStar recommends for the land that is available, and then just a snapshot of the total inventory. So as I mentioned, I would share the total number of parcels by neighborhood, and it looks like we have the most number of land parcels in Old Encinitas with 57. Followed by Leucadia with 42, New Encinitas with 22, Cardiff by the Sea with 9, and Olivenhain with 9, for a total of 139 parcels within the city of Encinitas that are undeveloped or developable land. And then here is a chart of the different zoning types of those 139 parcels. You can see that the vast majority of the parcels are zoned for residential, whether it be low density or high density. And then we also have some commercial residential mixed. For the sake of our commission and our time here, I'd like to point out the second, third, fourth, and fifth categories, whereas limited visitor serving, that could potentially be hotels. Then you have office and professional zoning, general commercial, commercial mixed. Commercial mixed just means a variety of different types of businesses that can be in there. And then commercial residential mixed, thinking of first floor retail, second, third floor living. And then, as I'd mentioned, CoStar does recommend different land uses for those different types of parcels, and most of them, as can be expected, would be recommended for single family development with a few commercial, multifamily, retail. Hold for development means that the property is currently owned and the person is just holding on to it for whatever reasons. Retail, mixed use, hospitality, open space, and planned unit delivery. And then with CoStar, of those 139 properties, so far or what we could pull was only 6 of them were advertised as being available to lease and or sell. And 2 of those 6s, the prices were undisclosed. So I have the addresses here, the zoning for those properties that were advertised for sell or lease, and then the price that they are going for. And then just some key takeaways. There's 139 land parcels within the city of Encinitas. They're primarily available in Leucadia, Old Encinitas, and New Encinitas. There's only 33 parcels that are not zoned for residential, and we do have limited asking price for the available parcels. Any questions?
Thanks, Delilah, for putting this together. Super helpful. So of the 33 parcels, where are those located? How much acreage are we talking about? Are there any opportunities on the El Camino Real corridor that you know of that might be prospective?
As far as like opportunity sites, maybe?
Correct, for
Okay.
commercial or retail.
I do not have that information on the top of my head. All this came by way of an Excel spreadsheet that I had to go through one by one, but I can definitely follow up with the commission and provide, I guess, a map of where those 33 parcels are.
Yeah, I forget if I was the one who requested this or not, but the original idea was to find land opportunities for development. So that's what I would request. Of the 33 parcels, where are the opportunities in the city to develop, essentially, if there are any?
All right, with that, thank you very much, Delilah. Now we'll move on to oral communications and possible direction to staff.
Oh, wait, we have 4B.
Oh, yeah. Proceed.
Okay, thanks. So this is a lovely report prepared by CoStar again. This is some information on our hospitality buildings within the city. So it was requested from staff to try to get access to the STAR report. And when we reached out to our contacts with CoStar, CoStar it does own the STAR report. However, the city has access to more citywide data, not hotel-specific data. So this is what we have, and I'll take you on a journey of what is available to the city in terms of hotels. Can you see, does my mouse come up on here? Okay, good. So this report was pulled last Thursday, and as of the date that report was pulled on June 18th, there are 701 rooms available in the city of Encinitas. And our occupancy rate, which is right here, which is 61.8%. And then our average daily room rate is $208. And then our RevPAR, which is revenue per available room, is $129. I do want to call out really quickly this number right here. I have reached out to the liaison for CoStar about this number because there is a discrepancy. The city does have 17 hotel properties within our jurisdiction, not 11. So CoStar did go through a pretty heavy update last week when we pulled this report. So please keep in mind that this number is actually 17. Not 11. I'd like to take your attention down to some information right here, which is the most common type of information that people seek for on the STAR report. So we're going to be talking about our occupancy rate, our average daily rate, and then the revenue per available room, aka RevPAR. Within the city, our occupancy rate is 61.5%. I would like to share that throughout the region, and when I say region, I'm talking about North County, the occupancy rate on average is about 71 to 72%. So I just want to share that with the commission to let you know where we stand. Our average daily room rate is $214, which is right on par with the rest of North County. And then the revenue per available room is $132.06. We have our year-to-date occupancy rate, average daily rate, and RevPAR versus 3 months and 12 months for you to look at as well. And then here's a visual representation of that information. And what it shows is what a typical range for these categories and where the city sits currently as where the city was 1 year ago. So in terms of occupancy, you can see that the city of Encinitas is on the lower scale of the range, and the city is actually performing slightly lower in terms of occupancy compared to where we were 1 year ago. And then you have your occupancy change year over year, your average daily rate, which is grown, and it's also above the typical range. And then the revenue per available room is above the typical range and has decreased just slightly. And let's see, delivered rooms, that means like new construction, and there's no new construction of hotel rooms. We're going to skip over the sales volume and the market cap. And then I want to take your attention to this graph in the bottom right quadrant of the screen, occupancy and ADR change. And this is over the past 10 years. You can see that towards the end of the pandemic, the average daily room and the occupancy had increased, but then we've obviously leveled out. People are traveling a lot more. So what's going to be most beneficial for the commission to look at will be from like this 2023 point and onward, because that's a stable number. And then same with our occupancy change over the last 10 years, RevPAR. Let's see. Oh, and as we saw on that line graph, our average daily rate for rooms and the revenue per available room has increased. And we did see that on the line graph. And then while down here in the bottom left quadrant, you can see that occupancy has decreased, even though while our room rates and the revenue per available rooms have continued to increase. And this just breaks down all the key information that we want to see on a monthly basis, which does show some consistency. And then, like I mentioned, there's no hotels being built right now, so we don't have any rooms being delivered or built. And that concludes this report. Any questions?
Question for you. I saw on one of the early graphs that had a 10-year span on it, on one of the axes. 1 year is interesting, but not really helpful. So could we look at this data over 10 years and see the trend? Do we have access to that data?
This is the 10-year right here.
Oh, sorry. Did I miss that completely? Can you go back one?
Oh,
I
these
think it
ones
was
right
this
here?
one. Yeah.
Okay.
This one I was most interested to see over a longer span. And it doesn't have to be 10 years, whatever we can gather data on.
So the line right here is what the range is for 10 years in terms of typical range. So for our occupancy over the course of 10 years, and it says so right here, and then it's right here from 2016 to 2026, this is what a typical range is for occupancy over the last 10 years.
Right. And
So that's not.
I see 2025 and 20 current, but over that same 10-year span, what would ours
Oh, right here.
look like for specifically to Encinitas?
Okay, I understand your question. Yes, we will get that. I will follow up with you.
Thank you.
Other questions?
On the same graph, is there any way to understand, this is where we fall within 10 years, but is there any way to understand where we fall compared to neighboring communities?
Yes.
Okay.
I can. So what we can do, the way CoStar has this information available is to, one, look it up with us grouped in Oceanside, Carlsbad, and Encinitas. That is the submarket that CoStar has created. Or what staff can do is get this information and type in the jurisdiction for each individual city, and then we can just compare the reports side by side.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I think if we could get that, that subgroup, and then if anyone else has any communities they'd like us to be compared to, I feel like that would be helpful.
So for now, just the Oceanside, Carlsbad, Encinitas submarket?
I'm fine
or-
with that, unless anyone has any other communities they'd like to see a comparison to.
I think we have one more question.
Yes, Commissioner Delamano.
I think that's a good idea. I just like it gets back to forming that competitive set, right? Because then once we have our competitive set, we just use that list for this too. So I just don't want to jump to conclusion and get data on cities now. I'd rather, I mean, it'd be my recommendation to agree on that set, you know. But good point, because that's what we need. Like, we need comparisons here, right? Sorry, but I'd still love that data you just said. So yes and yes, please.
Great.
Other questions?
We have one speaker.
Okay.
We have Deputy Mayor Jim O'Hara.
Do we have a clock, or do I just go? Does it matter for this? I don't think it matters, right? All right, so really I'm just here to just a quick overview and give everybody here a compliment. I think whether it's an attaboy, attagirl, attaperson, whatever, I think right now the city is really excited about all the work all of you are doing so far. I think everybody on the street and at the businesses and the agencies we work with, whether it's the 101s or the chamber, are all really ecstatic that you've taken the bull by the horns and really gone for it here. And I want to give you guys all a huge thank you on behalf of the city for going that direction. Within that, we have a lot of small business owners up here who are passionate about this city. And what I want to encourage you to continue doing, what I see happening, is keep connecting with each other and keep thinking, how do I grow bigger? How does my mindset grow from small business to big business, from the little picture of Encinitas, from each district to the whole city and beyond? I see you guys heading in that direction. I want to encourage you to keep going that direction. I think that's one of the reasons we're excited to have you here. Within that piece, you'll look at other cities, and I think we actually just heard a comment about it. And I think one of the things you want to look at when you start to compare with other cities is, what is their income, where does it come from, and what is the percentage? And you start to take in all the dynamics between the population of one city, the population of another, the square yardage. Useful information that you actually had staff to look up, which is those parcels and the number of units available versus other cities that are comparable, but maybe larger or smaller like our neighbors. And doing that, you'll start to define the picture of what Encinitas looks like, and really kind of the idea of where we can fit as a city beyond the small downtown area, beyond the El Camino area, but into a larger picture of what the city can look like in the region. So keep going in that direction. One of the things I always hear, the question across the board is, first off, I love our sheriff's department, but I always hear, when do we get our own police department? And it's a valid question. It's a great question. And there's limiters. And one of the limiters is that other cities who have their own police department have a larger revenue stream. They have a third additional revenue stream. We have a sales tax, property tax. And what is that big third revenue stream that we don't have that they have? I challenge this commission to find out what we can have that matches what other cities do, that fits in there along the path you've put in front of you. Because I think that's going to be key to growth of the city, into establishing where you want to go in the future, not just this year, but going forward. I'm going to finish up really quickly with coming this fall, I believe we're going to be talking about parking and parklets together as a city. I would love to see this commission chime in. I don't know if it's on your work plan, and I'm not going to be here to talk about your work plan, but I would love to see this commission chime in as a subcommittee or as a conversation. I know some groups have a commissioner's corner. I don't know if this group has a commissioner's corner in it, but that might be something you might add to have a discussion about items like that do come up, because I know that will affect a lot of the business owners up here, as well as the business as a whole, the city as a whole. So when that comes up, I'd like to kind of have that on your radar. Outside of that, I really think you're doing a great job. Thanks to each and every one of you. And I've met with some of you and really enjoyed it. I haven't met with everybody yet. I hope to. But thank you for all you're doing for the city. It's not gone unnoticed. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you very much. All right, next agenda item is changes to the agenda. And I'm thinking that might perhaps, there was some confusion about that earlier, and particularly in the passing out last meeting, et cetera. Perhaps you could address that.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So before this meeting, there was some information, hard-copied information that some commissioners produced and wanted to pass out to the other commissioners in order to support the discussion when we're talking about the work plan. Absolutely understandable. And I take full responsibility for this. Staff should have provided reminders out to the commission that in order for the documents to be prepared and then submitted and distributed to the other commission members, the documents should have been submitted before the actual agenda is printed and published, and really adhering to the Brown Act. And so for that reason, the documents that you do have on hand, I do ask that you just hang on to those. However, Chair and Commissioners, when we get to the discussion item of the work plan, please feel free to refer back to and refer the document in order to help stimulate the conversation of goals and objectives and moving forward, because I believe the timeline that we are looking at moving forward is have a hearty discussion now, finalizing the work plan, and then when we come back in July, it really is going to be kind of, let's do a once more look over, and at that time, we could provide the additional documentation as a part of this agenda items, deliverables or supplemental information, and then that way it can be consumed by the public when the agenda is published, and then by the rest of the commission members at that time, and then at that meeting, we can finalize the work plan. So again, that was the reason why staff is recommending that the commissioners hang on to those items. But luckily, we will still have another bite at the apple, if you will, come into July for our next meeting when we finalize and adopt the work plan in order to present that eventually to the City Council come August.
Okay, thank you. And then, just to be clear, if someone does have documents that they want included, that needs to go to you, to staff, at what time? How much prior to the meeting agenda?
So we published on Thursday. So by the Wednesday, close of business Wednesday, before the next week's meeting. So the Wednesday before our scheduled meeting, we would ask that the information be provided to staff so then we can get that included in the agenda. And that's any agenda moving forward.
Okay, and just to be clear, Commissioner Janicek last week passed this out, apparently illegal, didn't know. But so anyway, that's what this is all about. Okay. All right, I think that covers that.
Thank you, Chair.
Mic is on. Got it. So now we want to talk about the Business Commission draft work plan. And so we want to have the updates from the 4 subcommittees. And why don't we start with District 1, which, let's see, that's Commissioners Janasek and Shade.
Yeah. So, informally, there wasn't really much going on in terms of like to-dos in my on my list. So what I have done personally is go out and sort of walk, which I do every day, is walk my area, my district, and talk to all the local business owners, and just setting the stage, introducing myself. That's the first step. Getting to know them and letting them know what the commission is about. I think that was the first step in the process, is awareness, and then lightly introducing what are some of the pinch points for you guys and your businesses, and sort of making mental notes and jotting down some notes for that meeting. What I've heard, pretty much what Deputy Mayor O'Hara touched on before the meeting was big things: train and at-grade crossings and streetscape. Bar none, those are the 2 hot topics in District 1. Third being expansion or keeping the patios and the permits for nightlife. Jason could touch on that.
So this special meeting was called kind of on the structure of the presentation that I had from Lucadia 101. So, that feedback was already relayed to everyone. Was kind of the foundation of what I thought might be interesting for other districts to, lean on your counterparts out there and see what your, communities within the community want, right? So I presented last meeting what, we find valuable, and what Lucadia 101 has put a lot of work and a lot of years in trying to address and move forward to put on our table. So we'll stick with those items from my side.
All right, thank you very much. Next, let's hear from District 2, Commissioners Delamano and Kreider.
Hi. Tony and I had the opportunity to conduct outreach with District 2 businesses. We did a survey that was distributed. The survey was included in the city's weekly newsletter, which went out to 2,500 recipients. The survey went to the Encinitas 101 Main Street Association via their email and the Encinitas Chamber of Commerce newsletter. The survey also was available on several social media outlets. And then also Tony and I met with Irene, the executive director of the Main Street Association, and we met with Jim O'Hara, the deputy mayor and D2 representative, to get their perspectives. We appreciate everybody that participated in the surveys and shared their perspectives. We had, out of all of that outreach, we had about 21 businesses take the survey. And several things kind of emerged from that. One is, of course, what is already on our work plan, the permitting process. We heard that quite a bit. And then about 50% of the people were looking for engagement from the city and better communication. That came up quite a bit. They want to connect, and they don't really know how. And so I think that that's going to be an important thing for us to figure out. How can they feel connected in our community, and what can we do to support that? Tony and I came up with some more specific work plan deliverables. I don't know if we want to put those on that now, or you just kind of want the overview right now, because Tony is going to share some things too.
I think the overview is probably the best
Okay,
at the moment.
sounds good.
Yeah, thanks, Heather. So in addition to District 2, just the full discovery stage of what we're all doing, just with the city, you know, a couple other interesting themes kind of came forward. One was, I think you're getting a sense, I'm pretty data-driven, but the lack of data, and basically Delilah will probably attest to that, especially in her role. It seems as though the city, if they really want to increase these analyses, right, and planning in general, we're not talking 6 months, we're talking 5 and 10 year, just the data seems to be limited, and somebody really diving in the data to make like planning decisions, you know. It's funny, we go back to competitive set, that's, I think that doesn't come into discussion much. And it's funny, both of those things don't go into the election cycle, right? Like no city council member is gonna run on a data set. But I think it's our job maybe here to start formulating this groundwork, and whether that starts with us or starts with structural change in the city offices, you know, something it seems like needs to be done to have more business-related analysis, like leading to planning, which is why we're here, right? And then just a really cool thing, we had that coffee meeting, and this is more the El Camino corridor, but the permitting process, of course, that's gonna be on the slate, but the incentives that go with the permitting process is an opportunity. So there is a plan in place that I'm sure Brandon can jump into. That was intriguing, but there might be a side set on the business plan, or I forget what we're calling that, to not only talk about the permitting process, but also incentives and bells and whistles that go along during that process. So that's it.
Okay, that's District 2. I think we'll move to District 3 with Commissioners Miller and Pascal.
All right, thank you. So I took a little different approach. Jerry and I had met with the city manager, Jennifer, very helpful, 101 on the Cardiff side, and then a little more detail on the ground level, at least for my end, a little heavier in the weeds in terms of talking with not just the restaurants, but the car wash, fast food, the local lunch, and mostly on the El Camino Real corridor. Although I work on the 101, so I've had that data for months actually. So I posed it a little differently, and Jerry and I are basically going to be working on the SWOT analysis. So I was looking at those 4 questions more than just general feedback. So I posed it in a lot of different ways, and basically without naming the businesses, I created a list of questions. And the questions were super common, that's why they made my list. So I don't have to go through all 21, but I'll just read a few of them, just give you guys a feel for what the feedback was. Mostly nobody knew what it was, the Business Commission. So there's got to be a little bit of promotion and understanding. It's just not one business owner talking to another business owner. It was the general understanding that I try to get across that we actually do want to accomplish something. So what are the key priorities and objectives for the Business Commission? And again, these are using my words more than the general public's, but what are the upfront actual items that we're trying to focus on? What are the expectations, and what are my objectives at the end? What's the end result, Jim? How do we, as a commission, support the small businesses? That came up several times. And what are economic development opportunities? Just that term, not clearly defined. And what are other businesses' concerns outside of my business, not Jim's business, but the businesses I've talked to? They wanted to know what other people's issues and concerns were outside of just general inflation. Big question, how well does the city interact and support small businesses? Kind of goes back to what we were saying, what you were saying earlier. Fair question came up a couple times. Do we have an over-reliance on tourism and not enough focus on year-round local Encinitas businesses and the community support for the year-round businesses? Pedestrian and bike access, that came up. Walkability. Walkability being walking and biking. Several came up on noise ordinances, too restrictive, and goes back, I think, to the nightlife. Cabaret license came up. I'm not sure what the definition is of that, but came up a couple times. It's great that you guys get data and analytics. I was talking about what I learned in the last meeting. We've got a lot of analytics with CoStar. How helpful are they, and how best would you use them as tools? Affordability factor, which is, I think this got brought up last time. Local lower wage employees, are they leaving their dollars here, or are they just coming to work and leaving? And a lot of them are coming to work and leaving. Short-term rentals became an issue for a couple of the comments. It wasn't overwhelming, but it did get brought up, and I obviously have no answer to STRs. Rents, small business stability concerns, and this again was on El Camino Real. Just the rising rents with the redevelopment of some of the larger centers and the rents going up. Outdated retail storefronts. This was one comment. Are there any incentive and any improvement programs that the city could possibly offer to encourage the landlords to do something without raising their rents? And this was really kind of a combination of a couple different people, event-driven events. Does Encinitas need additional economic drivers? You know, whether it's the surf, the dog days, the farmers markets, the street fair. Is there room for others? And if there is, how would we, as a business commission, promote them? Not just the city, but how would we do that if that was one of our objectives? And then last one, which was an interesting question, was somebody asked me on the city council, regarding the city council, which I didn't have a clear answer on, how in depth does the council intend for us to go? And what is their true intentions for forming the business commission? I thought it was an interesting question without an answer on my part. So what I tried to do was take their feedback and pose questions that Jerry and I could utilize to create this SWOT analysis. But what I got more out of just the initial was more on the weaknesses rather than the strengths. So I didn't get a lot of strengths and there was a number of businesses that I personally spoke with. So our Jerry and Jim's game plan is we're still in a fact-finding mission. I don't think we're nearly close enough to being able to provide any SWOT analysis of any value. So fact-finding meetings, we're still interviewing additional data. We'll prioritize these and rank the issues. And they're more serious challenges than none, from what I can tell, to the local businesses. And then only take on and recommend those that are solvable. And those that are on the periphery that aren't ours, I don't think it's a waste of time. And then, as a group, divide and conquer, because I think it's a bigger issue. There are bigger issues than I originally anticipated, or the number of issues, and I think it's better to be myopic, in my opinion, but that's just one person's opinion. And then, ultimately, success. How do we define success? I think, again, I'm just using my opinion. I don't want to speak for Jerry, but I think there needs to be some short-term wins as well as the long-term. So that's where we're at.
Okay, thank you very much. And let's move on to our last district, and that's Commissioners Jennings and Corey.
Thank you. District 4, we kind of went the same route a little bit as District 2. We submitted a survey, distributed it to 488 verified businesses on D4 as well as El Camino. We admittedly did not get as much of a response back. We sent out a couple emails regarding it, got about 15 responses. We also held 2 listening sessions that we promoted both at Pastaria Vivi and at the community center, which we had a few people show up to. We took it upon ourselves to have conversations with local business owners when and where as much as we could. And you know, taking Jason's lead, we took what we heard and basically broke that down into the 5 pillars of what we thought seemed most important from the feedback we were getting. And on a side note, one thing I found pretty interesting from looking at the different districts is when I first started out to do this, District 4 is basically the entire west side of El Camino. And originally I kind of thought of El Camino as District 4, but really El Camino Real, the El Camino corridor, one interesting thing is it's the one main thing that every district has in common. Every district has a little piece of that, and I think there's a huge opportunity in there for us to talk about as the districts. So for those pillars, the number one that we were hearing was beautification. Operators on El Camino Real keep using the same word, freeway. 6 lanes of pass-through traffic, no consistent signage, and shopping centers that feel like islands instead of part of the neighborhood. The fix they want in order was walkability first, sidewalks, crossings, lighting, parklets, real pedestrian connectivity. Without that, you know, nothing else really mattered. The cohesion, each shopping center connecting to the street and neighborhood around it, and the city's own ECR specific plan already allows this through its frontage zone rules. One thing that we, looking around, walking the different shopping centers we thought was really interesting is, you know, it might be hard to cross from El Camino from one side to the other or Encinitas Boulevard, but every single shopping center borders a neighborhood. Every one of them. I can throw a rock from, you know, the back of Vivi and hit 3 different houses. But not a single neighborhood on El Camino can you get from that neighborhood to that shopping center. And I think right there lies a microcosm that we can possibly look at as opposed to taking it all on as a whole. So, and I think you just mentioned as well, one thing we heard was the facade improvement program that we originally heard from one of the briefings earlier. And this could be something citywide, not just on ECR. And there's also, I think, something to talk about here is there could be a timing issue because there are several ECR developments that are already in design review right now. And if we do want corridor-wide standards, signage, colors, walkability, this is the window to ask for it before those things are all finalized. I'll let Paulette talk about number 2. Number 3 was a business liaison in the same fashion as District 2 brought up. The single common most complaint in our survey was permitting, not necessarily making it faster, but operators wanting predictability. You know, someone they can call on, tell them where their application's at, how the process works. A lot of people are going through it for their first time. District 2 already, you know, proposed this. We want to expand it, permitting navigation, pairing new businesses with mentors, a list of capital access options beyond SBA loans. Also raves. I don't think I talked to a single person that knew raves existed. And that's a tool that we need to be able to use. But I think one really important thing underneath all of this, one question is the city itself staffed to deliver this? A liaison only works if there's a functioning department behind it. And I think that's a huge underlying factor. Is the city staffed well? Is it staffed appropriately in the right departments? Is that staff taken care of? Is there staff retention? And I think that's a huge factor to be able to look at. And then pillar 4 was vacancies. The city said vacancy citywide was at 4.3%. But at the corner on Pastaria Vivi, the Encinitas Village, it's 1 in 3 storefronts. It's 33%. So while both numbers are true, the average hides where the problem actually is, right? And there's a reason rents don't drop even when the storefronts sit empty. a lower signed lease lowers the building's appraised value, more than one vacancy. So landlords don't always have a financial reason to fill the space. Now, a lot of that's, what we talked to, a lot of what we probably have all heard was rising rents. I think a couple people mentioned it on El Camino already, and that's a lot of capitalism, and that's a lot of, not a lot can be done about tax code, but, where are there areas that we can address something about it? Not asking the commission to necessarily adopt a vacancy tax, but there's precedent to look at with other cities that have established other things like that, and there could be areas to look at, whether it's the carrot or the stick or a combination of both, to address issues. And then I'll let Paulette talk about pillars 2 and 5.
So not only do people want to walk, but they want to walk to events. So that was one of our big ones. People want activation, a reason for foot traffic on El Camino to their businesses, not just to go for essentials, but something that could bring the community together. So we were thinking to create a year-round event calendar that we could probably piggyback off of existing events like what the Chamber does and a lot of the Main Street 101s, but more city-backed events. We were talking about introducing a possible night market on El Camino that was floating around since the farmers markets are so successful for our city. A 4th of July parade, a Halloween trick-or-treats, a end-of-the-year holiday decoration. So one of the things we want to ask the city is there a single liaison person point of contact to have an event permit done quickly for these events? And, quick wins. What's the budget we have for decor, just to even get that going before the end of the year, to kind of get a sense of community to start this calendar of events. So that was one of the big ones. That same thing, talking about having an opportunity also for the businesses to communicate with one another, because an event really brings people together and gives a reason why you want to talk to your neighbors. Hey, what are you doing for Halloween, or what are you doing for a parade? The last pillar we're touching on, number 5, is the people want to see the city target businesses. Instead of being a passive recruitment, we should be more actively recruiting, and we were thinking maybe to create a specific target list, especially since we want to utilize that CoStar data and target businesses and maybe create incentive tools with the RAVES programs. So that way, like you had mentioned, Delia, too, we want to kind of know what businesses do the people and the businesses want in Encinitas, and I think it's one of our tasks should be to create that list. And so that's kind of like our focus with 5. I mean, we had so much data, and it's like 10 pages of information, so we can go into it once we start going through our work plan. But it was a good session. Lots we learned. Yes.
All right, very good. I think all 4 subcommittees have done a good job of coming up with researching their district priorities, so that's good. Our next.
Excuse me, Chair, I believe we did have someone submit a speaker slip for this item.
We
we
do
did?
have 2 speakers, first being Michael Glenn.
Hello, Business Commission. Good to see so many friendly faces. And Coffee on El Camino, just want to say thank you for presenting, and thank you for members of the commission coming. And it was great to see you at Summer Fun on the 101. And the deputy mayor left, but he was also at our Moonlight Mixer. So it's really great to see everybody kind of collaborate, get together, support our businesses. So first off, I saw the work plan. It looks fantastic. There's a ton of things that everybody's working on, so thank you for that. If I can make one suggestion, is to put a subset in there to focus on tourism. And we talk about tourism, and your information was fantastic on the hotels. Of course, taking all that information and looking what that means. And as you know, Carol and I run Visit Encinitas. I volunteer. She's CEO of the chamber, but as a part-time. Other cities we know spend anywhere that we found $250,000 up to $10 million. Does not mean that we need to go that route. All I'm suggesting is we take a look at that and what we do about it. We're not an auto manufacturing town. We're not Las Vegas about gambling. We're a tourism town just because we're in a beautiful town and people come here. So how do we address those people coming here? And that could be something as simple as somebody buying a bike in Oceanside and we direct them to Leucadia Cyclery. And that's just, a couple hours. Or it could be, yes, staying at the Alila for a week and then coming to Pastoria Vivi, having dinner, spending some time here, seeing some of the cultural sites that we have. So, of course, just making that focus, and that's my suggestion, if we can actually put something in the work plan to have a focus on tourism, a subset of that. Thank you.
Can I comment on his
Next
comment?
speaker, we have Carol Knight.
Carol Knight, CEO of the Encinitas Chamber of Commerce and Visit Encinitas. I just have to echo everything Michael says. He often takes my speech, but I do want to echo everything he has to say. But I also want to invite you guys to. We have a tourism advisory board. We meet every other month, and if anyone wants to attend that is a board that is comprised of Mohammed from Alila Maria, Nikki from Surf House, Josh Hansen. We have someone from, hopefully from the Botanic Garden once we have that new executive director there, Andrew Oot from the Institute of Contemporary Art, and Jason Peasley from the Cottage. So we'd be more than happy to have any or all of you attend one of those tourism advisory boards. Also, I do want to offer that we work very closely with Visit California, and they have data that we do not have. So if we want to invite a representative from Visit California to come in and speak to California trends, Southern California trends, San Diego County trends, and Encinitas and surrounding community trends, we'd be happy to arrange that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Excuse me, is there a date that you can provide on that next meeting for tourism?
The Tourism Advisory Board is actually meeting this Thursday at 8 at the Cottage at 8 o'clock, 8:30. 8:30 to 9:30.
25th.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other discussion amongst the commissioners regarding?
I think it'd be helpful for us, specific tourism numbers, is to get kind of a snapshot of what our budget in the city budget is, if I don't know what's shareable and what's not, versus other. Oh, so we have that answer. So is that the case in all communities of our size? There is not a line item in budget for like a tourism, anything related to that, or is it?
You mean in the city's budget? Is there?
I would say there is not a specific line that says tourism with funds from the general fund earmarked for that. What I would say is that the city participates in MOUs with certain organizations to host events. And then currently the city is enters into agreements with our Encinitas Chamber of Commerce and the Encinitas Main Street, or the Main Street Associations, to help with their programming. And what we heard from them last month, where they shared a little bit about their programming, albeit it's not, hundreds of thousands of dollars, but that is how the city has approached tourism to date.
And sorry if I'm ignorant on it. Is that pretty typical in municipal situations and budgets?
Yes, why don't you come up and answer?
I apologize. Carol and I have been doing this for years, and the reason we did it is because we noticed that Encinitas does not have a tourism plan. And then we started doing a deeper dive. On one end, Del Mar, which has a fairgrounds, granted, but they have 5,000 people. They have about $250,000 budget, and most of that all comes from TOT tax. City of Newport Beach, about comparable, same size. They have about a $10 million budget. And that's a whole different animal. They're bringing in a ton of people and the influence, I get it. But, as I said before, social media right now is dictating what Encinitas is, which should not be the case. We should be dictating what Encinitas is. The TOT tax, about a decade ago, I guess they did kind of fund some tourism initiatives. There's on the marketing side and everything else. The city then, whoever was back then, pulled that money out, put it in the general fund, which went to public safety, went to parks, went to cultural, which is great, but there was no plan at that point. And then it was just kind of used for various items, so thanks.
Helpful background. Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Corey.
I think it would be a very valuable resource if we could invite a representative from Visit California if we're trying to create a tourism plan. Like, is it something that we can ask the staff to set up to have for our next meeting?
Yes, staff can work with the Encinitas Chamber of Commerce to get some few options for them to attend one of our future meetings.
Terrific.
Yes.
When we met with Irene, she mentioned Visit California was a super helpful resource as well when we're talking about that competitive set, because they also deal with all these other coastal communities, and they can help us identify other cities that are doing things that we might, piggyback on. So I think it's a really good idea to get Visit California. And I also really back the tourism deep dive, because that's a P&L in itself, right? The cool thing about tourism is there's actually revenue, so we can create expenses against that to see if it works or not. It's like a very trackable subset of what we're doing in the city. So I do back that.
And Chair, if I may?
Yes.
Just to add a little bit more to the agreement and the actual amount. So historically, we've allocated about $120,000, I think, to the three 101s and the chamber, and then that amount was increased by the city council by $33,000 this past budget cycle. So right now we're about $150,000. That we're, not technically supporting tourism, but again supporting our partners within the community that in turn support tourism. Some of the experience that I've seen in the past could involve, any number of opportunities to look at how do we specifically earmark funds that come back to tourism. A basic example of that could be some type of business improvement district where each business within a certain geolocated area all vote and opt into the actual program and then allocate, and I'm just using this for discussion purposes, 1% of gross revenue, and then 1% of that could go back to the city as the caretaker of the funds to be used specifically for tourism activities. And I've seen that work in two ways. One, I've seen it allocated to the specific Visit City organization. So in our case, it could be Visit Encinitas, where a portion of that 1% or the 0.5% could be allocated directly to active marketing to bring in folks into Encinitas, and that's in partnership with California and also the U.S., especially when we're looking abroad. The other piece is to look at capital. Beautification was really a big takeaway that I heard, or that we heard from the commissioners this evening. And so it's being very intentional about allocating potentially the other 0.5% to capital improvements that specifically beautify the area that we want to focus on to be able to enhance that image, the style, the history, and really just being City of Encinitas to be able to attract more tourists to come into play. So I think it's a two-prong approach, potentially infrastructure improvements that are coupled with showcasing that and enhancing that through an active marketing program are opportunities that the Business Commission could explore as we dive into the work plan.
Yes, go ahead.
So if one of us had a specific marketing campaign that we had an idea for, and there is no current marketing council in the city, like how would something like that formulate if it was very specific? As everyone knows, we have a huge wealth of action sports athletes that live in this space that could provide really great, insight via social media campaign to visit specific locations. There are world champions, there are Olympians, there are greatest evers, and they all live in this city. So it's a great utility to use if we can figure out a way to capture that.
Commissioner Miller, did I see your hand? Yeah.
Mike Delilah, is there any collaboration, or has there ever been a collaboration with the park and the campgrounds? And are you, in your numbers and your data and the analytics, do you capture any of the dollars that those thousands of campers spend? And are there any events that get promoted on the campground site to encourage them to get outside the campgrounds?
For special events, we'd have to work with our Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Events Department because that is the department that handles special event permits. The city manager's office, to my recollection, does not have any MOUs or master services agreements with the campgrounds. And in terms of collecting revenue from that, I can get back to you, but my first assumption would be that it would be captured via the TOT. So those overnight stays would be how the city is ensuring that they're getting the revenue from those nightly stays.
And Commissioner, if I may jump in, so I think the short answer is, to our knowledge, no. We don't have that active relationship with the state parks to figure out how do we build like a joint marketing or recreation program to help enhance their attendance, which in turn is going to help us because now we have folks that are there, and then we'll get some overflow from that. I think there's potentially some tools that staff has that we can try and focus on and looking at that area to determine who comes in and out. And I think we talked a little bit about Placer AI as being one of those tools where we can at least start exploring it, to explore what type of opportunities that may exist to be able to reach out to the state parks team to be able to figure out if there's an opportunity for us to partner. I mean, it seems like a natural fit, especially right now, because we're seeing a lot more folks come in during the travel period, and so maybe there's an opportunity for us to partner with them from a Parks and Rec standpoint, who would manage most of our special events, to showcase what those they have, and then in turn, they could do the same thing for some of the city special events to help promote their attendees to move into the city. So I think it's definitely one of the items that we can.
Historically, we have no idea what, if any, dollars the city captures from those overnight stayers.
To our knowledge, no, we do not. We have not looked at that.
As far as a business opportunity, I can't believe there's no camp store still at Santa Leo State Park. I mean, or restaurant. It seems like that would be something that somebody would want to do. I know Carlsbad has their state park has a very vibrant camp and event area that happens.
Not for lack of not wanting. The bar is very, very high, and the costs are very, very high to take that spot now. And that's without going into the environmental impact issues that building's already dealing with at Cardiff specifically. But it's almost impossible to run a profitable business out of that place with what they're asking.
So is that something that we would be able to talk to the state about? I mean, is that why is that bar so high?
I think there's always an opportunity for staff to reach out and to start the discussion. I've had staff has had some experience, not necessarily working with the state, but working with a transit entity to run a general store along a trolley line. And I'm only bringing that up right now because I think that could be a possible solution to identify a certain location, establish an MOU with the governing agency, which in this case would be state parks, and there could be a way that we might be able to potentially mitigate some of the concerns that are there from a business perspective to make it not reasonable to move forward. So Chair, I think to your question, yes, there's always the opportunity, and staff is more than willing to reach out to have that discussion, and I think that's something that Delilah and I can do with the general consensus of the board providing that staff direction.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea, and that for next week, for next month's meeting, then perhaps, yeah.
And in preparation for that meeting, would we be able to gather information that, sort of what you were referencing, Jason, Mr. Janasek, about that property and having a building on there similar to the camp store in Carlsbad? If they had the same obstacles there, and how is Anthony at Camp Store making that work? Because he's done a great job up there. If if those roadblocks are the same roadblocks, how's he making it work and we can't? So that's, no. Yell
Yeah, I
out.
mean, just out of the gates, they're asking for a base rent of $135,000 a year with 13% of gross receipts. So if you can run a restaurant out there and be more profitable than 13% out of the gates, then I would champion you to go up and do it. But the reality is that it's very, very difficult to net 13 to the bottom line for most restaurants, right? And that's before you turn 1 cent of profit. You'd have to probably hit $3 million worth of top line sales out of there, which is not necessarily impossible out of the 1,242 square feet that they're offering, but certainly not the easiest way to make money in this town. So it's really difficult on that spot. I wish someone, I don't know how to get to the state's ear on that one, but if anyone can let me know, that'd be great.
Well, again, how does Carlsbad do it? I mean,
I don't know the specifics on that one. It might be a different square footage. There may be a different gross sales number, but I know specifically when that spot in Cardiff went up for bid, I was extremely interested in looking at it for a corner pizza location, and it just did not math, unfortunately.
all right. Any other discussion on any of these items?
Yes, Mr.
Yes,
Chair.
go ahead,
Um,
Commissioner Pascal.
I think what was interesting about tonight's presentation is that there were things that were echoing through here, and one of those is the permitting process. So is it possible to get the staff members from code enforcement or whatever to make a presentation of this so we can start to understand the pieces of that puzzle? Because if nothing else, that echoes through all the districts here. And secondly, is it possible, can you email us those slides so we can take a look at some of those numbers? Or did you already do that and I missed it?
No, they haven't been emailed, but they're just online. But I can definitely email them to you.
I can get them on the website?
Didn't they come across with the agenda?
Yes, they're attached to the agenda.
Okay, I didn't see that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The reason I ask is I found the occupancy numbers pretty interesting on the hotel side. There's a pretty broad product mix of hotels in this town, from the newest to Days Inn, for example. And that's going to reflect in the occupancy numbers. And what stands out to me is that you can never get a permit for a hotel that had 60% occupancy and try to finance it. Banks want somewhere between 7 and 80% occupancy to even give you the money. So that speaks, I think, to the ownership of some of those older units. And so the point I'm trying to make here, not very well, I apologize for that, is that the numbers on the surface need to be looked into from a cause and effect standpoint in terms of what they really mean. So, thank you.
You have a comment?
Yeah, just further to your point, are the hotel stays that are vouchered included in that occupancy rate? Meaning, and is that program being counted, I guess, in those occupancy numbers?
Are you talking about the vouchers for the homeless?
Yes.
That's a good question. I'd have to ask.
Roadway Inn?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think overall, I imagine they would be counted because that's just going to count as total revenue or total gross revenue that entity is receiving, whether it's paid at that time or reconciled at. And I'm not familiar with the frequency of the reconciliation, but whether it's at month's end or if it's just having another individual just purchasing the room. But we can look into that with our staff and then come back with a formal response.
Further discussion on any of these items? If not, I think then we are moving on to the Business Commission draft work plan, essentially. So Mike, are you going to put that up? Is that, yeah, you've got that. Perfect. And so what I think, speaking with Delilah earlier this afternoon, we are trying to, in this work plan, come up with the goal, the commission goal or project, which we can see in the upper left, the members who are going to be involved, and then what the deliverables are for that particular goal or project. And so we've got 12 different goals and projects, and we need to put names and deliverables to them. Some are already done. For instance, the third one is develop district-oriented subcommittee to establish the priorities of work, and we've just had a discussion about that with the subcommittees. So it looks like on item 4 would be the SWOT analysis, which we would be looking forward to, I think, for our next meeting, although.
So what we would need to do today is to approve this draft plan.
Right.
Once the commissioners here today approve the draft plan, staff has to take it to City Council for comment and approval. After council has provided their comment, direction, and approved it, the commission will then receive those edits, accept those edits, and then we will have a final plan, at which point the commission will start working on it. So right now, this plan has not been approved for the commissioners to do any additional work. You guys have gathered your information, you've had your fact finding. Now it's time to decide what you want to do, and then we have to get the blessing from City Council before you can move forward. So today's conversation will be about what is it that you hope the commission can achieve in the next year. Let's say July 1 through June 30th. That's in line with the city's fiscal year. So that's what the conversation should be about today, hopefully.
And we could add items or detract items.
Yeah, this is a
from
draft
this
plan.
Yeah.
We'll be typing away. Nothing here has been approved or adopted. Everything is totally editable.
Okay. Say again? Well, sure. I think that's a good plan. So starting, we've already looked at 1. Again, these all did come along. This came along with the agenda.
Yep.
So everybody should have that, or could have hard copies. It appears to me that 1, 2, and 3 are already taken care of.
No, it's fact-finding, yeah.
Fact-finding. 4, we won't be hearing next week, but we have that in place. 5, I'm sorry, actually, 2, did you mean to have 2 4s there, Mike? No. Yeah, so 4A is receive orientation from city staff, so that's what we were going to have at some point in time. Develop a work plan for each subcommunity in the city. And I think that this is an interesting one because the subcommittee in the city, that is the 5 communities. And right now we've been talking about districts. And as someone mentioned, there's sort of weird overlap between the communities and the districts, that they don't mesh perfectly. But we may want to have, does it make sense to have some kind of work plan for each of the different communities in Encinitas? And open that for discussion. Yes, first we'll go with Commissioner Kreider.
I did notice that when Tony and I did the survey and when we spoke with people in the community, and even when people were applying for the business commission, people don't know what district their business is in. They don't have any idea. They know areas, they know communities, and I think that it's important to not get locked into D1, D2, D3, and D4. I was at a meeting where they thought they were in D4, but they're actually in D2. So I don't know whether focusing on our district is good for some of it, and then maybe for others, we do define those 5: Cardiff, Old Encinitas, New Encinitas, Leucadia. We go, or El Camino corridor. I don't know what they look like, but that's kind of my thought.
Commissioner Jennings.
And I guess when I looked at the districts and the 5 different communities, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're essentially the same thing, just the 5 communities, District 4 is split into 2 with Olivenhain and and New Encinitas. And then the other 3 are exactly the same, essentially.
Slightly. So there is a little overlap in Leucadia to District 2. And then District 2 includes a little bit of Cardiff, a little bit of Leucadia, Old Encinitas, and New Encinitas.
Okay.
So yeah, there is some overlap with the districts. So it's not clean.
Right. It's not, I guess either way, no matter how you slice it, it's not clean. I think the one thing that I heard, and I think I heard it echoed here today as well, is that the Encinitas corridor is either every district or every community, whichever way you look at it. And I think we need to probably view it as an entity as opposed to 4 different entities.
That makes sense. Go ahead, Commissioner Corey.
I second what.
Yeah, I think I think it makes sense that maybe in our final presentations, it would be of the 5 communities rather than the districts. Or do we look at the different corridors? Does that, I mean, Leucadia, like you've said, the El Camino corridor hits everybody, but that is a very, I mean, it's I mean, I'm not sure you split out the Cardiff portion from the Leucadia portion on that corridor. Yeah.
A lot of these areas don't have business in it, so this is a business commission, so maybe we could redefine these business districts, right? Because, in between some of these communities, we don't even need to address because there's no business anyways. There's no zoning for business. So maybe that could be part of the work plan too, is creating new business-specific districts.
That actually makes a lot of sense. I mean, really, the districts are voting districts. They're for voting for the elected officials. And maybe, I think that's a very good point. Maybe we should, under 4A here, or no, I'm sorry, which, for the subcommittees, number 5, that subcommunity should be the business subcommunity and be a different entity rather than necessarily Olivenhain, Cardiff, et cetera. I think that.
Yeah, right now, city staff has split up the jurisdiction into the following business communities. We have the 101 in Leucadia, the 101 in Encinitas, and the 101 in Cardiff. We also have the North Coast Business Park, where the Encinitas Chamber of Commerce is. Then we also have where the E3 Collaborative is. We have YMCA, Coastal Routes, and we like to keep that as its own kind of focus area because of the amount of visitors that those nonprofits attract. And then we've also split up El Camino into a north and south, if you will, with Encinitas Boulevard being the divider. And currently, the city already has those business jurisdictions mapped out in our GIS system, as well as Placer AI. So if the commission is looking for any information in those jurisdictions moving forward, it would just be a little bit easier for city staff to get that for you because it's already split up.
I think that it's good to know.
That's very helpful.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, perhaps you could get us those different business districts. All right, so that's the receivable, it looks like, or deliverable that we'll have for that. Let's see, assess and create recommendations to enhance the city's business engagement in the community. That seems a lot like goal 3 that we were just doing, if I'm not mistaken. Is that, yeah, Commissioner Miller?
Yeah, can I take a step back for a moment and go back to 4?
4A or 4?
SWOT analysis.
SWOT analysis, yes.
So ultimately, you know, Jason and Jerry and myself will perform this analysis and present it. What's the protocol for gathering the information from all the presentations tonight? Obviously, there's a lot of commonalities between everything we've unearthed, but there's a lot of uniqueness too. How do I get that data?
So I think that I think that comes later, right? That comes after we've approved this draft plan and had the city council approve the draft plan. And then we have the plan, and then we can mesh that together.
Okay.
And if I may, Chair?
Sure.
So from the data that everyone has essentially in hand, right, this evening, staff would anticipate that when we post this agenda for discussion and really finalizing the work plan next month, that all of that data will be included within that notice. So you'll have that information available at that time. And then that can be used to help, I guess, refine the plan that we conclude with this evening, and then finalize that for the presentation to council in August.
Okay, yes, Commissioner Jennings?
All that makes sense for item line 7, for everyone has that information in hand. I guess my one quick question for you, and just to double check for all of us, this information that I have in hand that I'm going to submit to you for next meeting, are we all allowed to have each other's information at any point before next meeting, so we can come into the meeting having great, I read through District 2's, or do we receive it then at that time?
Yeah, staff would recommend waiting at this point. We wait until the agenda is formally published and as a public document, and then at that time, I mean, admittedly, we lose a couple weeks.
That's it, but then I have 5 days to go over it before the meeting.
Correct.
Great, that's fine.
Okay. So, I was down on line 7, and I was saying that it appears that this is very similar to what 3 is. Am I missing something there? Commissioner Corey?
I think it's more about engaging with the community, and I actually wanted to see if there was something I can go back to the businesses we've been talking to, because they all want to be able to communicate to one another. And I know the city already has a Facebook and an Instagram page. Can we go back and say, hey, you got 50,000 followers there. Is there an incentive that we can tell these businesses, go and follow it, and the city will post your business, or something to kind of get that going? So like we're mentioning quick wins.
Yes, I think there's a lot of opportunity that exists within social media.
Who manages that, and how do we get like posts up or refer?
You are looking at.
Oh, it's Mr. Mike. Okay.
At the individual that manages it. Yes, and so we recently had a transition, and our communications manager is no longer with the city, and so those duties have been absorbed by myself, and then leaving Delilah open to focus on economic development activities. So yes, there is an absolute opportunity that exists to showcase and promote individuals to follow, like, and to really track our Facebook and Instagram account, as well as our 101s and chamber and visit Encinitas. In part, what staff is currently trying to do, which is a part of our current work plan for this fiscal year, was to conduct business visits throughout the city. And we've kind of dovetailed off of those formal business visits, and those are accompanied with each of the 101s when we schedule that time to go in and meet with business owners throughout the city, and then also for the chamber for other visits. But we've also kind of created more of a walk and talk scenario where we kind of do the same thing, but they're more or less a block of time where staff will go out and either walk with the 101s or walk with the chamber, and really it's a meet and greet. It's a talk, it's a look, listen, learn, it's a handout business cards, it's a, hey, if you have a question, call us. So we have been doing that throughout the year, and this was one of the goals that the city council established too. And forgive me if I don't remember the exact number. I think we had 20, or no, 4. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think it was about 24, approximately 2 visits per month that we were able to successfully accomplish moving forward. So we're trying to take those steps out, and I think what you're experiencing is probably from all of the other businesses that we're just not, we don't have the capacity to get out and to speak to. But social media could be that extension that could help with that.
Is it something we can help out? Like, what if we were to shoot a photo of, hey, business commissioners are here, there's an event happening down the street in 2 weeks? Is it something we can send to you to possibly post?
I would say let's discuss that a little bit further and maybe refine that, because I like the idea of promoting all of our events in town and then trying to figure out how do we potentially increase the number of views. I think from a city standpoint, and also from the chamber and the 101 standpoint.
So how would we add that to our work plan here to utilize Facebook, Instagram for the city?
I think that could be in one of the goals, utilizing, city social media.
Yes. I'd love to see that there.
Yeah, we can tie that in as using the city's social media or platform too. I mean, we could.
There, like, I went to the Leucadia 101, I didn't even know it was happening, I just fell upon it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I missed this. I wish there was one place I could see all of the events that the chamber, the Leucadia, all the mainstreams do, and I feel like the city really is underutilizing that platform to get the word out of what's happening in our city.
Commissioner
I'd love to
Kreider?
see that.
Mike, can we add in all of this, this is kind of piggybacking on what you're talking about, Paulette, to number, I think that's number 7, for in the deliverables, like, could we get an inventory, put inventory existing communication channels and community calendars that are used by participating organizations? Can we put something like that in there? And then identify opportunities to improve communication and collaboration. And then, sorry, am I going too fast? Sorry.
So inventory.
I told you, I just wanted to give you the piece of paper.
I said inventory of
write it down. There
platforms
I
and-
am, I told you.
I have inventory of existing platforms and
So inventory existing communication channels. And community calendars used by participating organizations, meaning the 101 and all of their calendars. Chamber of Commerce, I need to put all that in there.
Commission collaboration with other commissions, like Parks and Rec Department, Arts.
Sure.
The senior commission always has stuff going on.
And commissions. Okay, then identify opportunities to improve communication and collaboration, and then review examples and best practices used by other communities. And then develop a framework for a shared community calendar, including content categories, participating organizations, and roles and responsibilities. And then present those findings. Well, that got wordy, sorry.
Delilah, do we need to have members involved for these different items? Some of that be blank.
I think that would be helpful for our council in case any of them have questions. We do have an active council, and sometimes they like to reach out directly to the commissioners to offer advice or participate in your work plan.
Okay, so should we put Commissioner Kreider down for that?
And if you wouldn't mind giving me the lead commissioner and then the supporting commissioner, that would be fantastic.
Okay. Okay, so lead would be Commissioner Kreider and support Commissioner Corey. All right, let's see, number 8. Consider creating focus areas that include small business, strengthen fiscal revenue, create quality jobs, and a 4th event yet to be identified. It may include the idea of a large single event as an attraction event for the entire city.
Can we just start writing down events that the council could consider?
Well, I think that we could come up with some ideas for events and discuss that. I mean, is that what we want to do? Do we want to try and create an event? Or
We just determined we have $0 in a budget, right, for any kind of above and beyond?
Yeah.
Or is this, I'm curious how things are funded, how we're talking about this whole program, and we're not talking about budget dollars, right?
Correct. So the commissions in general do not receive any funding, but we can make recommendations to city council. So given where we are in our budget planning process, what I would recommend the commission to do is research what type of event you want to have, where you would have it, how you would advertise it, who your target audience is, how much it would cost. And then what you do is you go to council and request those funds for this event. Who would your community partners be? What kind of permits you would need? Because even if you had the dollars right now, I mean, you also have to think these are your deliverables, and you'd have to commit to planning this event in the city, which we meet once a month maybe.
Which was leading me to my point was there are a lot of common themes throughout all the districts' presentations, and a lot of them affect all of us. Some of them are specific to corridors and El Camino. Some are specific to mine. But there are some common themes, permitting, parking, that I could go through them. I don't think this one was one that necessarily we're going to get to and fund and et cetera. So a big event in this, for this commission, I would question, but I could be swayed.
yes, Commissioner first, Janicek.
Okay, there we are. I have a pretty extensive background in event production, And most oftentimes, these things start as grassroots, obviously, and grow from there. That's how they're followed. That's how the strength is created and the culture of those events happen. We have two that come to mind right now that instead of trying to create something from scratch, that we can try to empower. So one of those being the one that just happened, which is the Switchfoot Bro-Am, which is a huge event. And the second is the Camp Shred that is produced by Surf Ride and Josh Bernard. Two amazing events, world-class events. They draw, thousands and thousands of people. So maybe it might be a benefit to us to maybe jump on their train already and see how we can promote that or help enhance those things instead of starting from scratch.
I'd be all on board with that. It fits the vibe, it fits the community, it's a low-hanging fruit. Thanks for that.
Okay, that sounds good. Do we want to put, first, Commissioner Pascal.
I would definitely echo that. The town I grew up in New Jersey, had a criterion, which is around the town bike race, and it draws people from ever and puts the town on the map. I think that's the point, is how you get the two together.
Sure.
So coming back to what I brought up earlier, maybe there's a way to kind of double dip on this. If there's a creative way to use our social media and our influencers that live in town. I won't mention them by name, but there's a lot of pro athletes and people that are kind of on brand with the Encinitas lifestyle. And then we can activate them at these events. You would essentially be able to pull off multiple things: marketing for the city, support for those events, and then city awareness, kind of all collaborating together. So I think that there's a really great opportunity to kind of, build a social content strategy around specifically these two events, and any other ones that are kind of on brand with the city.
I think that's good. I think
I'd be
should
that subcommittee.
Should we put your name on that?
Sure.
Yeah, you and maybe Commissioner Shade?
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay. And Commissioner Delamano? No. Comment. Oh, hang on. Good. You want to be on?
No, I don't want to be on the committee. I just
Okay.
want to say another thing here.
Okay, first Commissioner Delamano.
Okay.
Just out of this number 8, I'd be interested in piecing out, create a subcommittee to maximize business-related tax revenues, and I could head that up.
Commissioner Kreider, did you want to add to that?
No, I don't want to add to that, but what I would like to do for our work plan is not get into, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but when looking at the work plan that the city has just completed and that they continue to revise in watching some of those, I think that not getting too specific within the work plan, I feel like we're getting really down in the weeds, as opposed to kind of keeping things like for the, for the one that you're just talking about, making it a little more general, like looking at all the events that are in Encinitas, looking at the other cities that are doing events, and identifying opportunities to improve those events, as opposed to getting really focused on specific things, keeping it more broad right now so that we can get that work plan approved. And then when you're in that subcommittee, you get down into it. I don't know. I don't know if that's exactly the way, a work plan could be anything that we want it to be. But I just feel like keeping it more broad gives us more leeway for things that we might want to do, as opposed to going to the city and then they say, oh no, we don't want that.
That's my approach. I don't want the city to tell me what not to do right now, so I just want to create a subcommittee to maximize tax revenues, and then I'll figure out the details later. So, I think less details might be better right now.
Okay, so we've got 2 subcommittees here. Is that true? First, Commissioner Jennings. Comment?
I'm happy to keep it broad strokes for sure. I just, this is our 4th meeting and direction seems vague, but I think that's on purpose. So I'm just kind of reaching a little bit, maybe. Okay.
Commissioner Jennings.
I mean, I can definitely see the benefits to tackling it from both sides here. Broad strokes that, are more, we're not going to get shot down on, but also a deliverable, something that's like, I think can definitely be a benefit to both sides of this. I just, when I read 8, I read like literally the pillars of like everything we're supposed to do. So it's kind of you could literally put everything we're supposed to do under this. So I don't know where are or are not supposed to do that, but I guess as far as the subcommittee with tax revenue, because I see strengthen fiscal revenue, I see create quality jobs there. At least one of the pillars that we heard in District 4 was the target businesses that we're looking to attract to Encinitas, and a really fun idea for one of them was. You had mentioned in an earlier meeting how much tax revenue we get from Tesla, and the idea of could we get Rivian to come here? Now, I'm not saying we should jump down this rabbit hole and get suddenly specific, but what I am saying is I think under here the list of target businesses, if this is something we want to tackle, probably falls somewhere right under this with tax-related revenue businesses that are good for us, that's going to pay for all the other things that we want to do. And I would probably jump on board to being, on that subcommittee or on that with you.
So do we have clarification on the committees? Do we have 2 subcommittees here now?
Well, I see one getting written in there, and I'm like, yeah, that's...
Yeah.
You need to break up 8.
8 seems like it's just the large event.
Yeah.
You could take
Really quick before we jump, Commissioner Jennings, what was the deliverable for 8? You said about business attraction.
Yeah, the idea of, moving from passive recruitment to actually having a list. Is there a list of target businesses that the city of Encinitas would want to see or encourage to be here? That are either fiscally responsible or in line with our kind of ethos, surfing, skating, extreme sports, camping, right? The things that we've talked about here. Right.
Utilizing the data from
But yeah, and to that kind of point, I think 8 is 4 different things, and we've only talked about the 4th thing, the event, when we're kind of taking away, I think the small businesses is a lot of what we talked about before, the fiscal revenue, creating quality jobs, that's a little more of the tax revenue.
Single event.
I think so.
That's what I was thinking.
Right. Well, and then create those other ones out of it. Right. So we probably want to strip 8 into 4 different categories as opposed to.
Okay. How does that look? I copied it so that way down here so we didn't lose anything. But 8 is just consider a 4th event yet to be identified.
Mm-hmm. Or an existing event currently, I think is probably the only thing I'd add. Large single event as an attraction, or partner with an existing event. And then e.g. Pro-Am surf, ride, whatever. Because there's plenty more events in town besides those 2.
Did we want to take a stab at
so-
breaking down the other ones?
Yeah,
since we're
so
here?
that, into 8A. And this was going to be the one with Commissioner Delamano?
No.
No.
I think
It's not a subset of A. It's its own. It's a completely different topic than 8. So it would be 9.
I think 8.
Right, I know, totally different topic, but just for putting it in place here for the moment. It's not really a subset of 8, it's its own topic. But
Okay.
yeah. Yes, Commissioner Jennings?
I mean, as I read the original 8, it's 4 different things. It's the 4 pillars we were originally presented with in that very first meeting. It's, small business, it's strengthen fiscal revenue, create and then quality jobs, create or support the quality jobs that people have that live here in Encinitas, and then a 4th event. Those are, unless I'm not reading correctly, those are the 4 things that we want to split 8 into those 4 things.
All right.
No, that's not how I see it. That where you have a 9 now, that whole topic is kind of unnecessary. It's just it just says what we're going to do. I mean, take it out, and then the Delamanos and support with Jennings would be the number 9. Thank you.
There we go. Okay, any other discussion on 8 or 9? All right, moving on to what is now 10. Subcommittee to review the city's permitting process. The lead would be Janisek. I certainly would like to be a sub on that. I was wondering, I know some businesses that are soon to be going through the permitting process, such as Encinitas Brewery or Whole Foods or Trader Joe's. Are they already in permit right now?
Trader Joe's is. I haven't looked up Whole Foods, so I don't know.
I was wondering if we could follow along on that permitting process with these different, and see where they are and see, okay, this is, suddenly they've hit a block. What's the block that we would be aware of as these businesses go through their permitting process?
I'd be happy to present a little bit about the farmers market permitting process. No, I wouldn't.
Commissioner Jennings. Yep.
Yeah, I think I would, as someone who has just gone through the permitting process and still in the permitting process currently, I'd probably like to be involved.
I could be on that as well.
In this committee. And then to your point, because you brought up Whole Foods on the El Camino corridor, I don't know if this is exactly where that would fall, but as far as like a time-sensitive issue, the designer review of that shopping center, other shopping centers that are currently in the process of design review, I think there's a huge opportunity there for us to shape what the El Camino corridor, the specific plan. I think what Tony mentioned earlier at the meeting that we had was whether it's the incentives that go along with that. Are they the right incentives? Are we relying on incentives too much? And some of them should be requirements. But I think there's a huge opportunity right there. And I don't know if just because we brought it up, I don't know if that falls under there or if its own process, but I would like to personally oversee,
Well, that would be part of the design review is part of the permitting process, really.
Right, so if we want to lump all that together.
Yeah, I'd say so. But does that sound like a reasonable thing that we could follow along, have our business commission be advised as to the status of the permits as this goes?
So I think that would be a heavy lift for staff to be able to track and monitor and report back out to the business commission. What I would like to propose is next month is when we're trying to bring back the code enforcement and the planner, introduction orientation to speak here at the commission. I think that if we may walk through that process first, and I think that'll help shed some light on the internal steps and maybe some example projects that they can bring forward for the council's or the commission's information. And then looking forward, if there are specific examples, I think that could be something as a staff response, where staff would really access the existing permit process to look at some of the areas or the time increments between action items. I do want to be mindful of the work that currently goes back and forth between the applicant and also staff, city staff, because there's a lot of stuff that occurs between two dates. And so part of my concern is that if we rely on these hard dates and it looks like there's a 3-month window of no response from the applicant or no response from the city, that may not necessarily paint the whole picture of, no, actually, they've been exchanging back and forth emails, discussions, comments in order to refine the next submittal. So I understand what the commission is looking for, but I think if we may just pause on that and wait until we have the presentation, and then if that's something that the commission wants to further explore, that'll give staff, Delilah and I, time to speak with development services staff to go, hey, is this something that's reasonable that we can accomplish in order to give the information to our commission? Because I think the bigger picture is the value, and like the mission with this task, if you will, is to look at, well, what's the embetterment of the entire corridor, the El Camino corridor, right? And we're talking the general design review process to where we're not having piecemealing different looks, different colors, different styles, and then when you take a step back, you're like, whoa, it's like a Picasso. Right. And I'm just trying to say the different shape, scale, color, size, and maybe that's not in the overall image or the enhancement that we're looking at from a community perspective. But if that helps, that was kind of a long answer, but I think, yes, I think it would be something that staff could manage. Staff's going to have to work with the development services team to figure out how we would be able to do that. But we would definitely know more at the completion of the presentation from code enforcement and planning staff.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. It does seem like being involved in a real world situation can be very useful.
Understood.
Commissioner Janicek.
So it's been brought up multiple times, once in my presentation and then twice today, that there's a want for some sort of liaison service at the city for the permitting process. Would that fit into this goal right here, especially in like what the achievement might be? Because I feel like that's been identified 3 times in different terminology, but basically meaning the same thing, that we really need someone that can kind of hand hold through the process, that maybe even feels neutral and not city heavy or applicant heavy, but someone that can just guide as a resource. So I think that would be really great to put into here so we know what that ultimate goal might be.
So could that be like create a job description for that person or a program maybe?
Yeah, so it was number 3 on my feedback from Lucadia 101, and essentially what it says is establish a more collaborative, supportive, and hospitality-oriented relationship between the city and the local business. So the key recommendation from 101 was to create a full-time business liaison position dedicated to assisting and advocating for local business. Develop a business concierge support system to help businesses navigate permitting and city processes. Improve communication protocols regarding construction, mobility projects, and infrastructure impacts. And implement annual economic vitality reporting to better qualify the value local businesses contribute to Encinitas. So I think that was essentially, is it 1 job? Is it 3 jobs? We're not sure what that is, but everyone is kind of screaming for the same thing, which is we want someone to kind of guide us through this, valley of uncertainty when creating a new business.
Do you want to see what I typed? Line 10 for the deliverable. Okay.
That's a great start. Thank you.
So just for clarification, so the commission would look at requesting a new employee to perform this role?
Potentially new employee or employees at some point. If it's maybe there is some sort of like a beta test that we can run, and someone from the city that's already on staff can partake in this. I'm not sure how that rolls out into a full-time city job. I don't understand how that works, but I think that that's what we're asking for and the residents that we represent are asking for.
Understood. So sticking with the business liaison, but then potentially we could massage that into whatever solution that would meet the needs of bridging the gap, the concerns from the business community or applicants with the city in order to navigate the permitting process.
Yeah, and I think it could be graduated as well. I mean, we're not, speaking personally, I understand how to navigate the process much better now after 7 businesses, right? But first person may not make it to the opening day of their first business because they don't make it through the process, whether it's, holding costs or, cap constraints or whatever it is, right? And a lot of that, I feel, can be helped if they have someone to come to the city and say, listen, I don't understand the process. And they don't just get handed, a 200-page textbook and try to figure it out, right? It's like, hey, this is a small business. What you might try is this, this, and this. And your next stages will be this. Don't expect this by this date because sometimes it takes longer. It's just all of those expectations that no one really truly knows, right?
Could we create job description for business liaison or the program description for that concierge permitting services? Because to Mike's point, we're just looking to solve the need, and that may look different. So if we had some wiggle room, because recommending to city council a new head count is, we don't know where that will go.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I would ask anyone else to kind of maybe, flesh this out a little bit more because.
In the vein of fleshing this out, because I'm completely in support of some type of business liaison, and whatever fashion that might be, right? So whatever broad verbiage we need in order to look at this further, this concept. But I think a foundational question that if this is the right spot for it is the city staffed to deliver any of this? And a business liaison only works if the city has the underlying staffing capacity to support it. And I think there's several questions that sit underneath this and arguably underneath our whole briefing. This, in general, is this city currently staffed, across all of its departments, whether it's planning, code, building, economic? Does it need more people? Does it just need higher caliber people, or both? And Mike mentioned in this meeting that marketing has left, right? So we are actively searching for someone right now. I think a very serious, question for us is, does someone want that job right now? Are we offering, is Encinitas enticing for someone to come look at that job right now? Are we offering the correct package, or something enticing to get the right people? Because as we all know, just like running a correct business, if you don't want to come work for me, then we're fighting an uphill battle, right? So I think that, even though that could be a whole nother section in of itself, I think if we don't address or at least ask that question, then some of these things might be futile.
Commissioner Kreider first.
So with that, I have an item I would like to add to the work plan, which would be called the Economic Development Functions and Resource Alignment. And it's basically doing what Brandon is talking about here, which would, ensure that our economic development resources are aligned with the needs of the businesses and the community, and understand how staff time is being utilized and identify opportunities to increase that impact, and how we can help do that. I think that some of the deliverables would be to inventory current economic development functions and responsibilities, understand activities supporting business retention, attraction, and outreach. Again, review approaches that other cities are already doing. I heard multiple times, this is kind of a side note to the permit, was that people are going to Oceanside because it's so much easier. But this is about, and this is a part of that, right? Is because it's not, something is not happening here. That we want to evaluate it. Maybe it is happening. I don't know. We don't know the answer yet. We could add in identify opportunities to improve coordination and communication.
Is that though sort of what the very next one is, as far as provide input on the city's draft economic development strategic plan?
No, this is more about the kind of the economic development people. This is more about, like, we just have, I know that the current resources, I will think we just have one management analysis, and that's Delilah. And Delilah is responsible for business engagement and permit assistance and going and talking to property managers and being on the economic development analysis team, because there's a team for that. You know, she's responsible for doing like city collaboration and communication and promotion. Good job, Delilah. She's doing a lot of stuff, and you can't do that. I mean, we need to
evaluate some of that as to how we can do. She's doing a wonderful job, but how can we do it better? And we need to look at all of those jobs. And I do think it's a separate line item, you know, just for the work plan of looking at those jobs and identifying them, marketing, like Jason said, all of those things, and then how we can, and then go from there. But we got to figure out what it is first.
Commissioner
Does that make
Pascal?
sense?
It does. Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting how like many of the overlapping things that we're facing right now are like the same overlaps with like everyday business, right? It's like, okay, now you have a marketing team. Well, who's the creative director of the city? Who's going to tell everyone, like, are we skate and surf? Are we yoga and camping? Are we, you know, economically driven by new business and ugly, you know, buildings on the El Camino Real? Like who is the creative director, right? And like we struggle with this because, you know, a lot of my partners think that a business is one thing in their head and I think it's the other. So I think consensus there too, and having some sort of marketing vision is going to be really crucial, not just slapping on a marketing position, right? There needs to be like a core focus of what we all want to be in this beautiful community.
Commissioner Pascal?
Yeah, I think all these comments are interesting, and they run through the tenor of tonight that we're hearing things rhyme. Personally, I think that when we get the presentation, we'll know a lot more. I'm of the opinion there are no problems, there are only solutions. We know there's a problem, and a good place to start is to have the people who are in the seat right now talk to us, and then we can start to have the discussion about incorporating all these great ideas for whatever that's worth.
Commissioner Miller?
Great points, by the way. It's phenomenal discussion, in my opinion. But there's a challenge that we're going to have is if the planning department has an action plan going already, and we're not aware of it, we're wasting a lot of time trying to process a problem that's not ours. So is there some form of action? For example, what % of the design and review process is outsourced by the city today because of short manpower, for example? Just one simple question.
Yeah, the specific percentage, I don't know. But I can definitely ask and inquire about having that available when we do have the planning representative come and speak. But you're right, there's a capacity concern. And I think very similar to our economic development team, our communications process, there's capacity issues with both of those. So I think it's the discussion and the presentation from the development services team to learn more, as Commissioner Pascal mentioned, and then I think from there, then we can take it to the next steps of how do we assist as a commission and as economic development staff, because a big part of what we do on the day-to-day is the people relationships, right? It's the relationships from the applicant, understanding what the concerns are, and then knowing who to go speak with directly and to get an update from the city on the city's perspective, and then we marry the two. And then that joining is where that problem solving happens. And I think that's one thing that Delilah does very well, and the examples that we've had recently. So back to the question of the percentages, I think those are definitely items, or that is a question that I can ask for staff as they come back.
So let me ask, if I may, an opinionated answer from you. We're identifying problems, and as Jerry said, we're here to provide solutions. But at the end of the day, they know what the problem is. Are they going to, or do you think they'll be willing to listen and collaborate with us on the solution, or is it somewhat of a hardline department and they're working on their own solution?
I think it's going to be a collaborative effort that we, as the city manager's office, and really any department in the city, when we're working together, we're looking to adjust and to be flexible to be as efficient and effective as possible. And so with that being said, I truly believe that the department and the process, whatever process we go through, I think would be willing to look at their internal process and is there a better way? And in my long tenured 8 months of experience here with the city, maybe 9, I've seen that firsthand. So I can attest from my experience, and I'm sure Delilah could as well, that we're all on the same team looking to accomplish the same thing, which is providing as best services to the city as possible.
Thank you.
To address the same thing, Commissioner Pascal, I would normally 100% agree with you of viewing the planning first and then deciding what the best solutions are. But I think a real quick frame of reference from very recent personal experience. I think I've been on record saying since we've talked that building permits and whatever changes that I've heard that we have done have been great. I just went through the process super smooth. Conditional use permit, the exact opposite. And I do want to just, my personal experience with that right now, because I applied in July of last year, and as any small business can know, operating for 14 months for that to take, because they tell me still September, maybe, for that I still don't have an alcohol license, is a tall ask for us to be asking of any businesses to be able to support themselves. So clearly there's a problem, clearly there's a disconnect, and I'm not pointing fingers at where that problem is, but I will say firsthand experience, I went down to the planning office to introduce myself, to ask how this process was, and this was a little over a month ago, I introduced myself not only as a small business owner, but as a part of the commission, and was very clear that I was not asking for any different treatment or just to better understand the process, because one of the reasons I wanted to better understand that process, just like we're going to hear, is how can we help? What do you need? What is one way that we could do something? And I was informed, no, we're all good. So to make sure that the self-awareness is there that there is an issue. I think that might be the one sticking block, and I think it's an unfortunate, but I think it's a vital piece of news that is pertinent to this situation that we all need to be aware of.
Mm-hmm. And if I could anecdotally add to that, which I totally agree with, your experience with your liquor license is a classic example of what the perception of dealing with government is like. You submit a paperwork. If you call, they ask where you are. They take your paperwork and you put it in the bottom of the pile. And it took my son 8 months to get his license approved, and I hope you get it a lot sooner. So I think if, when we learn, when they go on record to tell us what they do, then it'd be easier for us to suggest other stuff.
Yes, so again, this is just the draft that we're doing right now. We'll get into the heavy lifting, I think, after this gets approved.
Yeah.
Can I please, Chair, get some clarity? So during the discussion for goal number 10 and goal number 11, I feel like there was some overlap. So I highlighted two of the deliverables for goal 10 because I wanted to know if those should go under goal 11 or if the commission wanted to leave them in goal 10.
I think that should stay in 10, personally. Anybody else have thoughts on that? You think it should go to 11? I think the idea of somebody helping you go through the permit process
Okay.
It's bold to start allocating resources right now until we know the need of the whole city. So I think number 11 allows that. So if we deem that the best use of the city resources is to do a business liaison, which personally I hope it is, then we'll do it, right? But I think 11's all encompassing for city resources, so.
So in other words, remove it from 10, and because it's part of what 11 is doing?
Right, that's her objective in 11 is to do exactly that, to
Yeah.
figure out how to
Okay.
allocate
That makes sense.
resources.
So what is the objective of 10? Simply to review the city's permitting process and then maybe advise to 11 at a later date?
Correct, like you're gonna have to prove to the business commission whether the city should allocate more resources for that liaison.
Or are there bottlenecks in the permitting process that just stops things? Commissioner Kreider?
I would love to see added into that permit process, into number 10, that if you guys, if on that committee, could review and compare permit processes used by maybe Oceanside and Carlsbad, that would be, or whatever the committee decides, just look, see what they're doing as part of that process would be great.
And then those two block paragraphs below, create a job description and evaluate current headcount, that can drop down to 11 now, right? Just so we know who's focusing on what, because I'm a bit confused. Is that what you were?
Right.
I'm fine with however they want to.
Yeah.
I think maybe the word would be explore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Business liaison position, not create.
But that's being moved down to 11 then? Do you see what you're saying, Delilah? All right, do we have any more discussion on that, on permits? No, okay. Moving then to the next one, the input on the city's draft economic development strategic plan. My initial thought is that has a lot to do with SWAT and possibly
Take that out.
either take it out or I don't know. The two commissioners, Miller or Pascal, do you have thoughts on that? Would your, with what you're eventually going to be assessing as far as strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, does that align with the economic strategic development plan?
You know, the general understanding of a SWOT analysis is really identification. And I think we'd be overlapping, and we're not necessarily, our objective isn't to provide input on the city's plan, it's to identify.
Okay. With that overlap, would the two of you fit in that position there?
Oh, don't forget Jason.
And I think, Chair, if I may add to the conversation.
Sure.
So I believe when we were having this initial discussion, I think the intent here is that staff will craft in-house the draft economic development strategic plan in its entirety. And I think there's components that the commission is going to perform that will be integrated into that. So the SWOT analysis, I think, is a good example of portions that would be included, and that could help establish some of the goals and priorities that will be identified within the strategic plan. Because on top of that, we're still going to have our basic assessment. We're going to have potential stakeholder engagement to craft what the overall strategic plan looks like. And then as far as what comes next, what is our action plan based upon the SWOT and some of the goals and priorities, how are we going to take action? And then what's the associated timeline and resource allocation to do that, typically in the next 5-year period, and then it's typically renewed or reviewed each 5 years. And then lastly, as a part of those, each annual, I'm just using annual because it's easy, annual update with resources, how do we know we're performing or meeting our benchmark? Well, we have to establish that as a part of the strategic plan as well. So that was, I think, the direction that staff had from having the discussions with council when we talked about this previously, and then bringing it before the commission to be able to just run the draft, integrate the information that comes from the commission, and then to come back. And obviously, this is going to be a part of the one-year goal. And to speak about the city council's work plan moving forward, the economic development strategic plan is a part of that as the one-year piece. So essentially, we will have a one-year window to be able to create, amend and update, and then present to the city council.
So that would be then, as far as members involved, the whole commission, rather than any subcommittee on that.
Correct. That should be the entire commission that's involved in this process. I think the subcommittee deliverables could be integrated into that strategic plan. So we're all contributing to the pot, and then in the end, it's going to be one big deliverable that the entire commission will weigh in on.
Okay. Fair enough.
That's one last question.
Yes.
So when the planning department goes through, or the city manager goes through the budgetary process, and they say we've added 4 FTEs this year, and we're allocating for one new one, let's say 2027, for example, and we're making a recommendation to add an FTE, do they have the ability during any part of that year to add that FTE, or does it have to wait for the following year's annual budget?
I think traditionally we'll have to wait till next year's budget. However, if there are opportunities, that could be something that's considered at mid-year, but historically I don't believe that's the appropriate time to present a new FTE. I think traditionally it will be vetted through kind of the budgetary process that starts just after the calendar year as we start building on for the next fiscal year moving forward.
Okay.
All right. Moving down to create a business storefront improvement program. We've already talked about that a little bit.
Can I have 1 minute to weigh in a little bit on it? So, in backing up a little, one of the slides you showed, Delilah, struck me a little bit about occupancy rates, and ours being for our peer group, occupancy rates being fairly low, 61% or whatever that was, and then looking at the average revenue per room being extremely high. So what that tells me, right, is we're high rates, low occupancy. There's opportunity there. I'm seeing it along the 101 corridor as well, and more so as we get things like streetscape done. And it's going to be, and someone else brought it up as well about rents and rate increases driving out small businesses. It's a real thing. It's very, very real for me, but all the businesses along streetscape. What I could very well see happening is once that streetscape is done, those rents are going up through the roof, right? And it's going to drive out a lot of small business and potentially move in big business. That it's good and bad, right? We all know what that looks like. So I guess was more like presenting that idea, presenting the concept of a rent at risk sort of program where how do we support the small businesses that are going to get driven out by the big? And is there anyone else that feels that way? Because I've heard it from my corridor.
Second it, whatever it is, I agree. Okay. In whatever form that there should be something, whether we explore a carrot or the stick kind of, support or, penalty for vacancies, because I think what you just said there it could address both problems in two different areas. There could be vacancies on El Camino, and there could be high, rising rents, but I think it's all kind of under the same roof.
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be a small business either. I mean, if we focus on creating some sort of business occupancy tax incentive program, the big businesses on these vacant parcels are the ones that are going to draw tax revenue. So if like Viore builds their corporate office here, or if small business, like it could be one and the same, right? So it's a great topic, but so I just remove the small business piece because there's a chance we might want to attract some bigger business on some of these.
No,
pieces,
totally fair.
Yeah. I don't think I think these are two separate things because it's not the business storefront improvement program.
I didn't know where to cram it in.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
taking it and moving it to one side. So the general goal is business occupancy incentive program. Some of the deliverables would be creation of a facade improvement program, rent support program, vacancy tax. That's what I heard. And let me know if this is all incorrect, and we can move it around.
Yeah, explore ways to maximize business occupancy in general.
Commissioner Janusik? As it relates to TOT tax with our occupancy rates, has anyone ever, in Encinitas, I'm not familiar with the hotel industry at all, but has anyone ever talked about like a heads and beds program? I know that Anaheim does this. I know that Vista does it.
I don't know what that is.
Where the city essentially subsidizes for higher occupancy rates. So let's say they subsidize, arbitrary number, like $15 per room that's rented over a certain threshold, let's say 70%. So that would encourage some of our hoteliers, or whatever the word is, to decrease potentially the cost of the room because we're extremely high, right? And our occupancy is low. So obviously we understand where the supply and demand is there. I'm sure people would love to stay here. They can't afford it. If you drop it by 10%, but then capture a $20 stipend from the city to put the heads in the beds, then the TOT tax would probably more than cover that. So it's kind of this circular effect that will allow higher occupancy. Just a thought.
Commissioner Corey?
I think that's a great event to add to our calendar, the heads and beds. Going back to what we have on, where were we? Storefront facade improvement. I know there was a lot of conversations about beautification and cohesiveness, and I know the city of Encinitas has currently their design standards and guidelines, and I know that we just passed that native plant ordinance. Is that something that's going to be amended soon? Because it hasn't been amended since 2022. So is that something that we could kind of tie in somehow? Maybe we could even create some kind of program for small businesses to get compliant with the new city or guidelines. Is that something we can do?
So like a grant program
Yeah.
for compliance.
Yeah, once this gets like updated, those guidelines are kind of old, and maybe this is where we can add sort of those beautification requests that a lot of businesses were asking for, like color palettes. I know they're specific on roofs, but there's a lot of things that could be added to this. And I think this would be a great document to utilize to help businesses stay, staying up to brand with all the new big box companies. Maybe we can say, hey, fresh coat of paint on the city to stay compliant with our new color palette.
In the facade improvement
Yes.
program or storefront improvement program, you can include example ways to qualify for that grant. So it doesn't just have to be new stucco or new windows, but if you are putting new planters, I mean, you're making recommendations to city council. We don't have to be limited to just what has been done. Like you can, if you're exploring these programs, you can make it something that you want. So instead, I would maybe change it from facade improvement, because that's what's been done, to just storefront improvement. And that way anyone who wants to update their landscaping could also benefit from that.
Right, and can we add amending the design standards and guidelines document in there?
What design standards?
Well, I mean, there's a document out there if you want a permit. Here's what you need your roof to look like. Has anybody seen this? It's like 65 pages, landscape. Like, that's what the liaison would be good at. Hey,
Yeah,
we have a
those-
document. You want your
So the
permit to
objective
pass?
design standards
Check out our document.
are for our commercial districts are mostly in the specific plans. Like there's one for Lucadia, downtown Encinitas, Cardiff, and El Camino Real. And I'm just trying to think how that could be a deliverable to, because we can't just change the objective design
Oh,
standards.
yeah, you can amend.
But what we could do is just maybe make a recommendation.
To amend it, and then,
But what those amendments would be.
well,
That wouldn't be our, that would be.
I mean, I guess going back to what's the genesis behind this? Is it during the business outreach, there has been concerns and questions brought up about not being able to renovate the storefront to what they originally wanted because of the design standards?
no, I think the business owners just want accountability to their landlords to have some kind of improvement outside. Like I was talking to I forgot his name, this business that does smoothies, and he said, my landlord just doesn't care. And it would be nice if the city did something to make him care.
To encourage the
Encourage
property
a
owner
property
to
improvement.
expend. Yeah, I think that was a discussion I think we've had, or it was actually, I think, at the coffee, when we were talking about some of the encouragement or discussions around rent control for businesses.
I wonder if this could be an opportunity to collaborate with one of our other commissions. So like the Art Commission, perhaps, is there a program that these two commissions can create to put murals up on certain places? If you know, because if an property owner is not going to invest in it, a lot of these grants will probably be matching grants too if the city does decide to go down that route. So there would still be some form of commitment from the property owner, but maybe if there's a conversation that can be had with the Art Commission, tapping into our local artists to help beautify certain sites. I don't know, just an idea.
I don't know if this is helpful for this question, but there is a program that's being developed in the city right now with Crystal for bike racks. And are you familiar? So making the process for bike racks in front of businesses much more accessible and a quicker process, and making it prettier, in that area where bikes park. So to extrapolate that concept into the whole storefront, I'm not sure if you play that game, but at least there is something happening in the city that is encouraging businesses to go to the city and say, hey, I want a bike rack. That thing's cool. I want to get bicyclists into my business. Maybe off topic, but I thought it was worth mentioning that program. And
Right. I think, is there more discussion on that?
Yeah, I think, Chair, I'm sorry, I just jumped in there.
No, go ahead.
What we're just brainstorming here is how to wordsmith this into, if I think we put it under the umbrella of storefront improvements, with a deliverable of explore opportunities to encourage participation, by all parties. And so obviously I think the tenants, business owners probably very much want it. And I think the owners may not be as inclined because of the capital. So maybe that's something that we can include as a part of the deliverables to at least start exploring that process. And then as a piece to that could potentially be the sustainability program with the bike racks, and then potentially parks and recreation with volunteer projects. I mean, there's been some experiences that staff has had in the past where working with local groups to help beautify certain spots, of course, to standards, applicable standards, but that could be an opportunity, I think, because I think as long as there's permission provided by the owner, and obviously the business owner, there could be an opportunity for a partnership, but I think just exploring that further to see what type of program could be created and then replicated throughout the city.
And lighting. Light. Down by me. It's so dark.
Yes, Commissioner Delamano.
I'd just add to that title, explore ways to maximize business occupancy and business improvement incentives, so that doesn't get lost.
And then we said beautification and lighting. So explore ways to fund beautification and lighting.
Explore increasing participation to enhance storefront as well as increase lighting.
Oh, okay, so that's one item.
So I think it's just the participation.
And then we move So we have explore creation of a storefront improvement program to make exterior improvements to facade and landscaping and maximizing participation from all parties to enhance beautification of storefronts and lighting.
Yes.
There might be one more addition there from feedback that we received from 101, which was discussed last meeting. It was potentially make a streamlined permitting process for low-impact community activations. So, business programming that contribute economic vitality, cultural vibrance, and community engagement. So, a streamlined permitting process for low-impact community activations, whether that be arts programming, small-scale music, things of that nature.
Okay, any other discussion on that? I think we're moving on to create a plan for the city to focus on Olivenhain and El Camino Real. I believe, go ahead, Delilah.
Can we please get a commissioner to lead number 13?
Right. Hands? Oh, okay, Commissioner Corey.
Bike racks for everyone.
All right, so now on to Olivenhain and El Camino Real. Did this come out of the fact that there's 3 101 associations and nothing for El Camino Real and Olivenhain? I think that's where that came about. I'm not sure how the city's going to focus on. Commissioner Jennings, you have a thought?
No, I was trying to clear it.
I guess my first thought on this is just the El Camino specific plan and possibly reviewing that. And my thoughts are that there's just areas it doesn't go far enough. I think from our conversations like Coffee on the Camino, when you mentioned that there are, permitting incentives. And I think Tony and I both asked, how many people have taken advantage of that? And the answer was, zero. So I think, are we incentivizing the right things? And even more so, as Encinitans and having our standards and, taking ownership of the El Camino corridor, just as much as we take ownership of the 101, are we holding ourselves to that standard of whether it's, not just suggestions of beautification, not just suggestions that there's egress to the surrounding neighborhoods, but making one or two of these things actual requirements. And that would be, from what I've heard, a little more what the constituents, at least on El Camino, want the most of. That kind of walkability, not, are we on the right path? Yes, but let's get on that right path a little quicker.
Okay. Any other comments? Is that, so in other words, are we, let's see. Do we actually have a, are we trying to create a 101 type entity?
I think,
Or-
no, not 101 type entity, but during some of our earlier discussions, we talked about the El Camino Real corridor being a place for potentially a type of bid, whether it be community benefit district, I don't know if it was tourism district, but if that's a place where we could put that special assessment on those business and use those dollars to help fund some of the beautification, the lighting, the events, the marketing. I think that was part of the discussion for putting this on there too.
Okay. And that kind of leaves the Liebenhain out of it.
If I may, part of the earlier conversations, I mean, there's not a lot of
There's not much
businesses in
there.
Liebenhain, and
Yeah.
for the business commission, we do want to focus on our commercial corridors.
Yeah, I agree.
So we could even take Liebenhain out or
I-
keep it in, whatever you want to do.
Kind of think, I mean, other than some horse farms and I don't.
I mean, you have your main, like, Harvest Ranch Shopping Center is
Yeah.
your main one. That's
Yeah.
right there, which, does have some new businesses coming in, and
Yeah.
I don't think should be just completely left out,
And that's.
right, of any,
Yeah.
but.
And in fact, that Rite Aid that's vacant, I mean, what is it going to turn into, particularly with that monstrosity across the street, though, where everyone could walk to a restaurant there or something, if something went in place where the Rite Aid was. Yeah. So I guess maybe not take a Liebenhain out, but,
But I think, I don't know if you want to focus on, if you need a couple more touch points here, whether it's the beautification we've talked about, how those standards, walkability fit into the current El Camino specific plan, as we mentioned, and what might need to be readjusted in some fashion. Again, I think we've talked about whether it's branding and marketing, that it is its own business corridor. Does that look like archways at the north and south ends? And I'm not saying this has to be it, but
Sure.
what is the, that just so it is an entity, just like Cardiff is an entity, just like Leucadia is an entity, and what events go along with that. Maybe it's not a 4th of July parade because there already is one, but maybe it's because we just spent all this time on making it walkable and neighborhood-like, that it's the trick-or-treating for the businesses, and this is like, and we want to really showcase that this is our support. Again, not saying that's what it has to be, but, encompassing that this, we all recognize that the El Camino Real needs maybe a little more of our focus, a little more of our attention right now than a different district might.
yeah. I think that all makes sense. Do we have?
And I'll volunteer to be lead on this
Okay.
one.
Thank you. Commissioner Jennings. All right, and then Next is opportunities to increase TOT and describe what that could look like through the creation of economic opportunity locations through a study. Yes, Commissioner Delamano.
I'd recommend just revising this to creating a subcommittee to assess tourism opportunities in TOT.
Agreed.
I don't want to take the lead because I am going to propose one after this that I'll take the lead on. So
Increase tourism. I'm sorry, what was that, Commissioner Delamano?
tourism and TOT.
Thank you.
Maybe explore hotel and hospitality opportunities. Review tourism demand drivers for the city and assess opportunities. I like the national park concept, so assess opportunities with the state parks.
This would dovetail into the big event sort of topic.
Is there any merit to this one worth the parcel conversations we'd had earlier, whether there is a commercial space that would be viable for a small to mid-sized kind of boutique hotel, kind of encouraging that same?
Yeah, I don't know where the opportunity for overall development happens here. Maybe it's almost in all of these, right? But yeah, I would agree with you on that. You know, if the review says we need more hotel rooms, which I was shocked we only have 702, and then it's about identifying land probably, so.
Okay, and Commissioner Delamano, you said you had another one you wanted to add.
Yeah, do we want to find a lead
Oh yeah,
for
we
this
need
one?
a lead. I'll take the lead on that.
That kind of goes with what I'm doing on the event. I'll support
go
you.
with that?
I'll
Okay,
support you on that.
Okay. Commissioner Shade as well.
Notice how I'm not lead on anything. Leave it that way.
So now, I think we can move to Commissioner Delamano, your other thought?
Yeah, the last one I proposed that we've heard, especially along the 101, is the outdoor dining mandate. So I think, and guys, there's an assembly bill, like we're required by the state to come up with a formalized outdoor dining code. It's AB 592. So I think create a subcommittee to assess and recommend outdoor dining requirements and opportunities.
Would you separate private from public
Yeah.
in terms of your review, or is that more?
Is your microphone on?
I'm just asking, how would we look to review this versus private and public? Because I believe they're kind of lumped in right now.
I think if you review AB 592, they're both separate. Like I could be wrong. So if we stick to AB 592, utilization of AB 592, I think we cover most. Mike and Delilah, do you know that?
Can you please repeat the question?
So we're just talking about the outdoor dining, and there's a assembly bill with the state that kind of requires jurisdictions to come up with outdoor dining plans. And I believe it encompasses both private and public, because I know it assesses private parking spaces, because I'm doing it currently, but then also public parklets. So I think it covers both.
Right now, our planning team is, we responded to the extension for outdoor dining. And what I understand is that any COVID era outdoor dining application that was approved for private property, all those existing businesses have been grandfathered in and their permits are approved in perpetuity. So anyone who's on private space with their outdoor dining is good to go. The city is currently working on outdoor dining standards, which is what each city is required to do. And our planner, Evan Jednisak, hopes to have those done and presented to city council within a year, like and approved. At which point it would outline what the requirements are for private and public.
Yeah, so I guess we'd like to advise Evan.
Mm-hmm.
And you said you wanted to be the lead on that, of course.
Sure. Yes.
I'd take a support role in that one.
I'll support as well. There's 2 L's in my name. D-E-L-L, yeah. Thank you. It's Italian, not Portuguese or Hispanic.
Do we have leads and support on every item that needs it?
Missing one on 5, maybe?
Yeah, I was going to, if
5 and 6?
I think we're missing a couple supports.
Yes. Commissioner Kreider, yes?
For the one that you're working on, the last, I don't know what number that was now. But could we add, would it make sense to add the parking and the parklets into that committee? Because I know that every time outdoor dining comes up, that somebody screams about parking, they kind of go together. So could we put both of those in the same committee?
I would suggest a review outdoor dining's effects on parking and propose
Great.
solutions, hopefully.
Private.
Yes.
So I'll scroll through these nice and slow, and then once all of our commissioners have reviewed them, then feel free to make a motion, somebody, to approve the draft plan for fiscal year 26-27.
Which will also need a second and then a vote.
Just one comment. Should we add a competitive set under the SWOT analysis? Defining a competitive set?
Yeah.
Is that something you need to do?
Sorry, I didn't mean
I'm
to
just
interrupt.
asking the leads on the. So on the SWOT analysis, it's common to define a competitive set, and that's come up a lot. Should we add that as one of the deliverables? I mean.
Define a competitive set?
Right.
And as in comparable
No.
cities?
Yeah,
Is
right.
that
We
what-
got to do research and do our analysis on what other cities we want to draw from to as people we're comparing us to. So when we do, the occupancy number, we're saying it's good or bad, but no one knows until we look at other towns to see if it is good or bad. So it'd be great if we added that.
Do you want us to leave the SWOT to choose the competitive set, or do you want to compare us to Newport?
No, I'd like for the SWAT group to do that research and then propose a competitive set. Or not, up for vote.
So we need, for 6, a lead and subcommittee there, right? Lead city staff, perfect.
And Chair, if I may just add on more administrative follow-up to this. So as we move forward, what staff will work on is the potential impacts when we're talking finances, and you'll see the definition there of one of the columns of low, medium, and high. And then the next update that staff will provide is if any of the work plan goals fall within city council goals and objectives for next fiscal year, so starting July 1, staff will insert what that goal is that the city council has established. So then if there is a nexus for that goal, it'll be shown on for the city council goals and objectives. And then lastly, just as a reminder for this process that we're looking at this evening, staff did recommend the actual approval of the work plan, but I think what may be appropriate, especially considering the additional materials that should be embedded within as supplemental materials for the final presentation, the direction from commission, I think, would be sufficient in this instance to be able to return at our July meeting with the finalized work plan as updated, as staff just mentioned, and then as well as including any and all supplemental materials that will be included as an attachment to the work plan. And then that could include any additional information that the commissioners would like to include before the Wednesday before the meeting.
Okay, so you're saying that we really don't want to vote tonight?
I don't believe a vote is necessary because we haven't reached that final.
Yeah.
So I think in this case, the direction as we've received and edited now, I think is sufficient for us for staff to move forward, finalize, and bring back for the final for the July meeting.
Fair enough. Good. Any other thoughts? All right.
One
Go ahead.
thought. This is a huge list, right? When we first started, I thought we were really remain focused, and I could see now the 16 points on here is less focused, but they're all valid. So what do we do with that? I'm looking for direction because I feel overwhelmed by this list, and we're not going to get to any of it.
I think that what we're going to be doing is this is the draft.
Yeah.
And it's going to get approved, and over the next year or two, we work on this. Is that?
We also have on number 3, part of the goal, part of the goal was to establish priorities of work too. And so maybe this isn't completed. Perhaps at our next meeting in July, we can add prioritization to them.
I'd agree with that. I think this is pretty ambitious, so maybe we can sleep on it and then come back, see if we want to chop any of it.
Yeah. Commissioner, go ahead, Jessica.
It also has to go in front of, let's go in front of council, right? So they could also reduce this by half if they wanted to. So,
Or add or double it.
well, is that correct? Can they actually add to?
They'll provide feedback and comments on it.
Okay. I'm like more line items, actually. Okay.
Feedback. Number 17.
Sure.
Number 18.
Well, see how voluntary it is then.
Potentially for the next meeting, what staff can do is kind of, I guess, organize, if you will, just a time sequence. So quarter 1, quarter 2 overlaps into quarter 3, quarter 4, and maybe if the commission is okay with that, we can organize these tasks in kind of first to last order, at least as a discussion point. Definitely not final, but then that'll help facilitate the next step when we meet in July to go, okay, yeah, this makes sense. We talked about this. That's a good order. So then we can really look at the quarter alignment, financial estimates, if there are any, and then city council alignment with the city council work plan.
Okay. Commissioner Pascal.
Just a question, who's leading the TOT tax subcommittee?
Panda.
Wait a minute, where is that?
Tony?
Yeah, that's me.
So, Tony,
That's, yes,
Yeah.
me.
Chair, so I'll volunteer myself if I can confine it to the STR portion of TOT tax.
Okay.
I think I can add some value there.
You'll just SDRs? Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think that the heads embeds pitch should probably live in the TOT and not in the business dev.
Up top, I think it was 3 or 4 up. There you go.
Thank you.
I don't know how this works, but I should probably be involved in that because I'm gonna head the financial part as well. So maybe I'm the last person listed on 15, just so I'm abreast of what like you guys are doing, because the TOT factors into the taxes pretty heavily.
This is where we left off with the review. So we have our lead support, lead support, lead support. Goal 11 only has a lead and no support. Do we want to assign someone there?
I'll support her.
Okay, Corey, thank you. 14 for El Camino Real, reviewing the specific plan.
Who's got a business there?
Ryder.
I'd help you, but I'm on 2 already.
All right, and I think we are good. So then staff will return during our July meeting to put them in a starting order. The commission can always rearrange them. Staff will add a proposed timeline for the goals. We'll add the city council focus areas for next year and then bring it back to the commission during our July meeting to approve.
Good.
Thank you.
That sounds good.
Thank you.
So we are moving on from the draft work plan. I think that, did you have some informational items for us now, or is that coming up?
Yes, Deputy City Manager James and I would like to just share a couple housekeeping requests for the commission. So first and foremost, we're very excited for all of our commissions to be out there in the community. If you couldn't tell, we got you all name tags, that way you can conduct your official business. The one thing that we are requesting is if for any type of communication where the commission is using the city logo, that must come through our office. Please do not use the city logo without our authorization. And then also, if you, like, the city does have stock images of our beaches and commercial areas, so please do not use AI-generated photos for beaches or downtowns, and we can't use any just photos off of Google because sometimes those have licensing rights. So whenever you are creating flyers, social media, other types of outreach, please, please, please work with your staff liaison to create such things. Any questions? Thanks, and then I believe our Deputy City Manager has some updates as well.
Yeah, I think we discussed the agenda and then providing the information the week before. We We do have the opportunity to prepare some information items for our newsletter, for the city newsletter that does go out. We do ask that that information is provided at least the Tuesday before the following Thursday for print, so the Tuesday week before, in order for us to be able to review that and then program that appropriately. The sooner, the better, I think. So as we're working on additional outreach items, it would be great to just talk about that as soon as possible, so we can integrate that into the schedule and into the timeline. For social media items, obviously we talked about the communications manager, and that position is currently flying, and we're hopeful to receive some great applicants that want to join the city team. As a result of that, the survey that was scheduled to go out didn't get posted, and that's on me. So as moving forward, I'll make sure to get that programmed as far as posting on Facebook and Instagram, to be able to get that out as much as possible. I would just ask the commission just to bear with us as we're moving forward in this time of transition. But again, the sooner the better, I think, because in that way we'll be able to navigate that, to be able to post as soon as possible. And other than that, just appreciate the time and effort on the work plan. And the direction moving forward. I think the direction provided to staff is very much appreciated. It makes it very clear for us to be able to understand what we need to accomplish in order to make the commission as successful as possible. So thank you.
Okay. Is there any commission member initiated agenda item? I don't think there are. And future agenda items added by commissioner members? I don't think there are. Commissioner roundtable, so we've got any last discussion? By the way, this is a 3-hour meeting. Is everybody happy with it going straight through, or would anybody prefer to have a break at some time and for future meetings? Just a thought. I'm happy going straight through, but I don't. Yeah, straight through. Good. Other comments from anyone? No. In that case, meeting adjourned.